Some of the violators were owners of luxury cars with plate numbers ending in 1 or 2. Despite the implementation, authorities did not issue violation tickets yet, as the program is still under a dry run. At 10 a.m. today, the MMDA was able to apprehend over 1,500 vehicles all over Metro Manila.
Our road configuration now is different from the pre-pandemic stage. Kasi ngayon meron na tayong bus lane sa innermost, tapos sa outermost meron na tayong bicycle lanes. Iba na rin yung luwag ng kalsada, kaya ramdam yung pagsikip ng trapiko sa pagdagdag ng maraming vehicles.
The MMDA is bracing for more than 420,000 vehicles on day 1 of classes, and that's on EDSA alone. What's the plan to manage traffic next week and later in November when full face-to-face classes begin? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. Welcome to The Chiefs. Ako po si Roby Alampay. Kasama po natin from the port area in Manila, Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star. Ami, good evening.
Hi, good evening. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Ano bang binabantayan natin na balita?
Well, may bagong Agriculture Undersecretary na-announce ng Malacanang, si Balik DA, si Domingo Panganiban.
Tapos kanina, kausap din natin ang PNP Chief, si General Azurin. May reshuffle na naganap sa PNP. Although he's saying, actually, this is just, this is a departure from tradition because sabi niya, dati ang ina-appoint na Deputy for Administration, Deputy for Operations, hindi na-appoint ng Presidente. Nasasanay na raw tayo masyadong diretso from the ranks, from the leadership ng police ang appointment. But a lot of people are playing that, spinning that as a na-demote daw tong dalawa. So this is something na kailangan nating mabantayan din sa police.
Siguro, imbitahin natin yung mga PNP officials one of these days, kasi medyo iba nga siya.
But anyway, supposedly that's just a correction. We will have to monitor that, certainly in terms of the potential politics, fallout sa moral din ng leadership ng National Police, although they insist na, hindi, it's a correction in the system. We'll have to devote an episode to that at some point. But for now, we're talking about something that is, of course, high on the minds of a lot of people, and that is traffic. Let's call in our first guest for this evening, MMDA Director Neomie Recio joins us via Zoom. Good evening, Director. Welcome to the Chiefs.
Good evening, Director.
Yes, good evening, Sir Roby and Ma'am Ami. And to all our televiewers, good evening po.
Ma'am, sige, diretso tayo doon sa traffic na pinag-uusapan natin. Una-una, clarify lang po natin. Trial pa lang ba itong balik natin sa coding? What officially is the advice to our today? Because kanina na-report nga natin, may mga nahuhuli, pero hindi naman hinuhuli, hindi pa naman fina-fine, parang dry run pa lang. Gaano katagal po itong dry run?
Yes, Sir Roby, we started the implementation of our expanded number coding. And so, kung matatandaan nyo, yung coding natin before is gabi lang from alas 5 ng hapon hanggang alas 8 ng gabi. Now that we are preparing for the face-to-face classes next week, we implemented this morning the expanded number coding. Ito yung isinama na natin, yung peak hours sa umaga, and that is from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. But of course, hindi muna tayo manghuhuli up to Wednesday para dry run tayo ng 3 days para umaga sisitahin, tapos iwawarn lang na by Thursday, that is August 18, we will be starting the issuance of citation tickets and of course yung aming CCTV cameras regarding our no-contact apprehensions.
Sige, let's talk to what we're bracing for. Nabanggit po natin, 420,000 vehicles on day 1 of classes. That's what we're expecting. Pero just to give people an idea kung gaano karami, gaano kasikip ang 420,000, right now po, or at least last week, what was the average vehicle volume sa mga lansangan natin?
Yes, last August 4, yung data namin is ang volume is 387,000 in a day. On August 4. And we are expecting an increase of 13% once na nag-open na and nag-F2F classes na itong ating mga estudyante. So, ang projection namin, it will reach up to 436,000 dito pa lang sa EDSA. That's why we included the peak hours sa umaga in our number coding policy.
Ano po yung mga reaction kanina ng mga nahuli? Medyo marami-rami na yata yung nahuli kanina. Yun ang nakuha naming report eh.
Yes, ma'am.
Sa inyo?
Nasita namin all over Metro Manila is noong umaga 1,549, nadagdagan pa, nagiba itong 1,588 all over Metro Manila do sa ating major roads. And ang sinasabi ng marami is hindi namin paalam. And of course, siyempre may palusot tayo, ma'am. Alam nila na hindi pa kami manghuhuli. That's why siguro lumabas pa rin sila. But on Thursday, sinisiguro namin na talagang manghuhuli na kami. And they will be issued citation tickets. And of course, meron kaming mga cameras, yung aming no-contact apprehension. And gusto ko lang ipaalam na nag-meeting kami with all our district officers and sinabi namin na kung sa tingin nila yung pagpara, kasi once pinilagdown mo yan, siyempre papagilidin mo yan, ilagay mo sa gilid, it will take around 5 minutes para sa conversation, ipapaliwanag mo. So kung makikita nila or sa tingin nila is makakaabala sa traffic, huwag na munang parahin, huwag na munang hulin. Anyways, meron naman kaming mga CCTV cameras na pwedeng manghuli kasi ang objective natin dito is mapabilis or patuloy na mapadaloy ang traffic. So kung sa palagay mo makakaabala pa sa traffic yung paghuhuli, huwag na munang hulihin. Pabayaan na muna, anyways, meron naman kaming mga cameras na pwedeng kumuha ng no-contact apprehension.
Okay, sa Thursday yan ha, malinaw, mag-uumpisa na yung lalabas ng ano. Ngayon, ang problema ngayon, metro-wide, iba-iba yung fines eh. Nanghuhuli ang MMDA, nanghuhuli din yung local government. So sa MMDA muna, magkano yung mga fines kapag nahuli kayo niyan? Sa ano lang yan ha, yan muna yung sa coding.
Yes, ma'am. Sa aming coding, ang penalty po is 300 pesos. 300 pesos po yung babayaran nila. And kung sa palagay nila, hindi sila dapat hulin or gusto nila i-contest, of course, meron po silang kalayaan na mag-file ng contest doon po sa aming Traffic Adjudication Division. Meron po kaming mga hearing officers doon. Didinggin po yung reklamo nila para kung makapatunayan na mali yung huli ng MMDA, yun po yung magiging reason na mababaliwala yung huli nila.
Ma'am, private vehicles lang po ito. Linawin natin because every so often may mga kalituhan sa ganyan. Private vehicles lang to and lalo na especially mga TNVS natin, mga Grab, ganyan, mga taxi. Ano po yung policy sa kanila? Should they be mindful of anything?
Meron po tayong automatic exemption. So ano ba ito? Of course, yung pong ating public transport system kasi sinasabi nga natin na kapag pinigilan mo kasi number coded siya, kailangang dalawa lang ang choice niya, umalis ng umaga or magpalit ng labas or mag-take ng public transport system. So kaya po na-exempt natin automatic yung ating public transport system, including po yung ating public utility vehicles, including tricycles, of course yung pong mga TNVS natin, transport, network vehicle services, of course yung motorcycles, yung garbage trucks, fire trucks, marked government vehicles, ambulances, marked media vehicles, and motor vehicles carrying essential or perishable goods. Doon po sa public transport system, kinukonsider po natin yung mga bus, yung mga school buses natin, kasi binibigyan din po sila ng franchise ng LTFRB. So yung pong school buses is considered as a public transport.
Ma'am, limang cities pa lang yung nag-i-implement yung no-contact apprehension eh. Pag nahuli ba ng MMDA, kayo lang ba in charge dun sa coding? Pwede din bang manghuli yung mga LGU na may NCAP?
Pwede din po manghuli yung mga LGUs na may NCAP, pero ang palagay ko po is i-reconfigure pa nila yung kanilang mga cameras kasi kailangan po i-reconfigure nila. Baka hindi pa po nakaprogram sa kanila yung violation ng number coding. Naging
controversial yung NCAP ngayon, lalo na sa social media. Marami nagre-reklamo siguro you can tell us, I understand nag-meeting na yung MMDA, saka nag-issue yata ng joint statement with the mayors na dinidepensa. Pero sabi ng mga nagreklamo, hindi naman daw nila pinipigilan yung NCAP. Kaya lang naguguluhan daw sila dun sa implementation. Saka yun nga, napakataas daw ng mga fines. Although, I don't think sa MMDA nakadirect yun Sa LGU yun, medyo mataas yung sa LGU. Paano yun? Are you having further consultations? Kasi pinare-review pati yung bakit daw yung private sector ang nag-i-implement nun.
Yes, ma'am. Of course, we are respecting the local autonomy of the LGUs. Kasi meron silang mga mga ordinances, may mga batas silang ginawa. Of course, nire-respeto po namin yun. But on our part po, sa MMDA, matagal na po kami nagkakaroon ng no-contact apprehension. I think panahon pa po ni then Chairman Bayani Fernando, nag-start na po kami ng no-contact apprehension. And ito po ngayon, ang sa amin po kasi in-house, hindi po kami nakipag-deal sa private. Yes. So ang kaibahan po namin is kami by in-house. Yung sa kanila po is nakipag-MOA po sila with a private contractor para po doon sa kanilang no-contact apprehension. And yun nga po, ang alam ko is meron silang dininig or pinag-usapan or dumating sila sa punto na nagkaroon sila ng ordinansa. So magkaiba po yung no-contact apprehension ng local kaysa po dan sa no-contact apprehension po ng MMDA.
Ma'am, at this point, sanay na, lalo na yung mga nagdadaan sa EDSA, kabisado na naman nila mas makitid na or nabawasan na yung lanes, di ba? Meron tayo sa outside for bicycles, yung sa loob, itong bus carousel natin, and so on. Ngayon, as you said, tataas pa by 13% yung vehicle volume that we're expecting on EDSA. People are starting to calculate, gaano kabagal na yung takbo namin. Meron po ba kayong modeling or projections on what happens to the average speed along EDSA? Maybe that can help our kababayans to plan out their routes.
Actually, sir, may share ko lang sa inyo. During the pre-pandemic period, ang travel speed po natin sa EDSA nagre-range lang from 11 to 15 kph. Yun po yung average na yun. There are certain times of the day na 5 kph na lang. Of course, in average po natin, meron namang oras na 20 plus or 30 plus. In average natin yun during the pre-pandemic, nag-average lang siyang 11 to 15. But during po the time na yung pong bus, kung maalaala nyo, yung bus kasi inasa kanan yan dati, dalawang lane yan. Nilagay na po natin sa gitna yan. Ito po is project po ito ng DOTR in coordination with MMDA and DPWH. So medyo gumanda po yung takbo kasi na-segregate na po natin yung buses. Dati kasi pag bumalanda ang bus, lahat ng nasa likod niya na private cars na nakabalanda siya, may domino effect sa likod. Now, hindi na po siya makabalanda kasi nakabakod po siya ng concrete barrier. So, mas napabilis po natin ng konti yung traffic natin. Actually, yung average po namin is I think 21.9 kph. But, of course, since we are expecting the influx of more cars, more private cars during the opening of classes, and yun nga, sabi natin, mag-i-increase ang volume ng 13%, so it will reach up to 436,000 a day. That's the reason po kung bakit ang MMDA is nag-implement na ng number coding pati sa umaga para po maiwasan natin. Kasi kung 436, baka yung 15, mahirapan pa tayong maabot.
Okay.
15 kph.
Sige, so ma'am, linawin ko lang po. Gaya nga po ng sabi nyo, nailipat na natin yung mga bus sa inner lane, malinaw na yon. Just to emphasize, because marami pa rin takot gawin to Yung mga ibabaw, pwede na magdaan ng private cars doon, di ba? I know there are signs encouraging people, dito na kayo sa ibabaw, wag na kayong magsiksik, mag-iimbudo pa kayo dyan sa ilalim. Pwede po kaming gumilid dito sa kanan. Pwede namin baybayin ng buong EDSA dito lang sa kanan, Walang safety kaming lahat dyan.
Yes po, actually, may mga signs po tayong malalaki dyan na pinalagay ko po dyan, tinagalog ko na nga para mas madaling maintindihan. Nilagay ko dyan is, kumbaga, gamitin ang service road. Kasi usually po, yung mga service roads natin, kunyari, papunta ka ng tunnel, like dito po sa Shaw Boulevard, papunta ka ng tunnel, makikita mo siksikan lahat doon sa pailalim, luwag-luwag naman sa service road. So why not use this service road para hindi ka sumiksik? Same is true po dito sa tunnel po ng Aurora, tsaka dito po sa tunnel ng Ayala. And doon naman po sa mga flyovers natin, like for example, flyover dito sa
Ortigas.
sa Cotolan, sa Ortigas, pwede naman po silang gumamit sa ilalim kung sa kitang-kita naman po, ikokonti po yung gumagamit ng service road. So, why not use the service road instead na makipagsiksikan ka doon sa ibabaw ng flyovers or doon sa tunnel? Kasi talaga pong walang disiplina din yung mga driver. Pag nakita nila kasi na puno, kakabig, kumbaga yung sinasabi naming buntis, tapos biglang sisingit doon sa unahan, abala lahat doon sa nasa likod. So yun po yung marami din po kaming nahuhuli na violators dyan through our CCTV cameras.
Kasi
And of
lahat
course,
po
we're
kami...
installing this, yes sir, we're installing these cameras and nanghuli po kami ng NCAP to instill discipline among the motorists.
Okay, ulitin ko lang po yun kasi I think lahat kami may iniindang trauma eh. Lahat kami nahuli na sa ibabaw. Pero ngayon parang binabaliktad natin yung mindset na hindi, yung service road pwedeng gamitin, ulitin lang po natin yan. That's really a big help. You can use the service roads on the outside lane. Wag lang doon sa bicycle lanes, ano? But
Yes,
you can use that para kung mas mabilis yung daloy, you can use that.
Yes sir, tama po.
Director, balikan ko lang yung NCAP, kasi marami ngayong nag-aalala dahil lumusot lang daw sila ng konti doon, lumagpas doon sa yellow box o kaya doon sa white box bago yung yellow box. Nahuhuli na sila at inaabot sila na hanggang 5,000 peso fine per violator. So ang hinihingi nila, kung maaari daw, magkaroon ng timer yung mga stoplight para matansya nila. I understand pinapalitan ng MMDA yung mga, tinatanggal yung mga timer. Bakit po nagkaganon yon? Ano bang project yon?
Yes, ma'am. Gusto ko lang po linawin, ito pong traffic signal upgrading system ng MMDA ay walang kaugnayan doon sa no contact apprehension ng LGU. Even before, I think 2014, nagsimula na po kaming mag-upgrade ng ating traffic signals. Yung pong traffic lights kasi natin, nung araw po, ito po is analog. Meron po kaming communication provider, nag-shift na po sa digital. So, ang nangyari po, naiwan, nawala yung communication ng traffic signals namin noon kasi nag-digitize na po yung aming communication provider. So that's the reason po kung bakit nag-shift po ang MMDA from analog into digital system. So ito pong digital system na to, medyo sophisticated. Pwede na po itong kontrolin yung mga timers, yung troubleshooting. No need na po na pumunta ka sa site para i-control mo yung controller. Dito pa lang po sa aming command center, pwede na po namin i-correct or yung timing baguhin or kung ano man gagawin mo, you need na to go sa labas, pwede na po dito sa aming command center. And ang isa pong feature nito is naglalagay po kami ng ating mga detectors kasi kung mapapansin ninyo, nung araw, since anong tawag dito, fix yung mga timing natin, ang tawag po doon is time of day. Ibig sabihin, yung isang traffic light, naka-fix yung timing niya, nakapag 7 to 8, ganyan ang segundo. Kapag 8 to 9, ganyan. Fix po yon. So, hindi naman po ganun parate yung dumadaan. So, ang nangyayari, minsan, naka-green siya, pero ang tagal na walang dumadaan na sasakyan, sayang po yung lost time natin na sinasabi. So, kaya po ngayon, sa may actuation na kami, habang may tumatapak doon sa detector namin, bibigyan ka ng green, pero yung pong sinasabi ng iba, hindi na po natapos kung walang tigil yung tapak. Hindi po ganon. Meron pong maximum timing yan, may time siya, may maximum time siya na allotted o sa leg na yon, na once na-reach niya yon, automatic, magpapalit po tayo ng sequence ng ilaw, yun naman pong ibang leg ng intersection ang pagbibigyan. So, mas sophisticated po itong ating traffic signal kasi may actuation na po tayong sinasabi. Regarding po sa timer, yung po kasing timer, pang fixed time lang. Ibig sabihin, nung araw kasi, pwede kasi naka-fixed time nga. Ang nangyari po kasi, since ang timing ng ating mga traffic lights is nagre-rely doon sa volume na dumadaan, yung pong dikta ng controller natin, yung pinaka-brain ng ating traffic signals, yung pong dikta ng controller, hindi po mahabol ng timer. Kaya ang nangyayari minsan, makikita mo 13 pa yung time, biglang mag-T3 kasi biglang hahabulin ng timer yung idinidikta ng controller, which is medyo risky po, baka po magkaroon ng aksidente. So yung po mga timers namin, hindi naman po namin tinatanggal yung gumagana pa. Yun lang pong mga hindi na gumagana is hindi na po namin pinapalitan kasi nire-ready na po namin dito sa aming tinatawag naming ITS para po pag nakumpleto na po namin, ongoing pa po, hindi pa po lahat ay napalitan or nalagyan ng detectors, eventually po mawawala na po yung mga timers na yan.
Wala bang digital na system na may countdown timer? Kasi kaya lang naman pinoproblema yan ngayon dahil nga yun eh. Lumagpas ka lang ng konti, meron ka ng 3,000 fine eh. Yun lang naman ang
Actually,
problema, kaya hinihingi
yes,
ko
ma'am.
yun. Kasi sa Las
Opo.
Piñas, naglagay ng bagong stoplight eh. May countdown timer naman. Sa Muntinlupa, lahat ng stoplight may countdown timer.
Yun po yung mga dati naming nilagay ni ma'am na countdown timers. So actually nakipag-usap na po kami doon sa provider ng mga LGUs and then nga sinabi namin na i-reconfigure nila yung paghuli nila doon sa mga violations. Kasi yan po sineset po yan doon sa program ng kanilang mga cameras, CCTV cameras. Pwede po nilang i-reconfigure yan para kunyari dagdagan nila yung time para makatawid muna bago hulihin ng cameras na nakalagay dun sa mga intersections na sila po ang naglagay as project po ng LGUs.
Okay, ma'am, last question na lang po because we've been talking a lot about traffic affecting a lot of private cars. Pero yung mga yung mga namamasada, tsaka yung mga sumasakay sa mga bus at saka mga jeepney natin, is there anything that they should understand pagdating ng pasukan sa pagdagsa ng mga sasakyan sa EDSA? Are there any changes, any improvements in the system para sa mga commuting public natin?
Actually, sir, ma-share ko lang po, ang MMDA po is may libreng sakay. Araw-araw po to from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. 4 na buses po, tsaka 2 6x6, araw-araw po yan. Ang pick-up points po niyan, doon sa may Doña Carmen, kasi pag umaga po, ando doon po yung bag ng pasahero paluwa. So ihahatid po sila, ang daan po niyan is Commonwealth, papunta ng Quezon Avenue, diretso po ng Espanya Rotonda, tapos babalik po ulit para kuhanin po ulit yung pasahero na nandoon sa Commonwealth. Another thing, meron pong Pasig River Ferry Service ang MMDA, and meron po kaming 13 stations. Ito po is libre. Libre po ito, wala po itong bayad. And may mga stations po kami from Pasig to dito po sa may Binondo area. Banggitin ko lang po yung mga stations namin. Ang operation po namin is mula alas 6 ng umaga hanggang alas 6 ng gabi. Ang station po namin is Pinagbuhatan, San Joaquin, May Bunga, and Kalawaan in Pasig, Guadalupe and Valenzuela in Makati, Hulo, Lambingan, Santa Ana, PUP, Loton, Escolta, and Quinta Market in Manila. So ito po, kung kunyari galing ka sa area ng Pasig or galing ka ng Marikina, punta ka doon sa istasyon namin sa dulo, sa Pinagbuhatan, makakapunta ka po doon sa University Belt area. So bababa ka doon sa may Quinta Market or sa may Escolta para makapunta ka doon sa eskwelahan mo. And meron din po kaming istasyon mismo doon sa may PUP. Pagbaba mo doon sa istasyon, na doon ka sa loob ng campus po ng PUP. Ito po ay libre and of course, wala pong traffic ito kasi sa tubig po ang daan.
Apo.
Mas mabilis ang biyahe, and yung po nagwo-worry na sinasabi nila, mabaho ang tubig. Wala na pong amoy ngayon ng Pasig River. Actually, kakasakay lang po namin ni Chairman ng isang araw. Nag-inspection po kami and napaka-komportable po ng sakay. Maayos, pagkatapos walang ingay, walang usok, walang traffic, and aircon po yung aming
At libre pa. Ma'am, linawin lang po natin doon sa river ferry. Paano po, kasi habang ngayong nag-uulan ng malakas, kahit meron po bang pagkakataon na hindi pwede yan? Meron po bang, and how will they know bago sila magpunta doon?
Actually, sir, may schedule po kami every 30 minutes po ang alis. Meron po kaming website, pwede po nilang tingnan mga schedules. And kapag po, kunyari, may bagyo o malakas ang ulan o malakas ang agos, may announcement po yan na advance yung info na suspended po yung ating operations. Ano lang po sila sa website at saka doon po sa social media accounts po ng MMDA.
Okay, MMDA Director Neomie Recio. Ma'am, maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you po and good evening.
Good evening po. And we will start up another conversation after the break. Keep it right here on One News. Hello, ako po si Roby Alampay. Kasama po rin natin si Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star. And now with us, after decades in public service, he is now the Chief of the Department of Science and Technology. To talk about his plans tonight, DOST Secretary Renato Solidum. Secretary Solidum, welcome to the Chiefs.
Good evening.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. Yeah, good evening.
Sir, of course, every time you're here, we always talk to you in the context of FIVOX, disasters, disaster resilience, maybe also climate change as well. What do you think, I mean, for yourself and for the DOST, your appointment means for the department and your personal vision for it?
Well, I think this is the first time that in the history of the department that the secretary came from within and rose from the ranks. I first entered the government force in the DOST, and I think this would boost the confidence of all the civil servants of the country that you can actually be asked to lead a department if you really prove that you can actually do it. And I'm very glad that I was given this challenge because I think that the Department of Science and Technology can play a major role in the agenda that the current administration has set. And science, technology, and innovation would really be very important in the economic development aside from addressing the national problems that we currently face.
Secretary, binanggit nga, you mentioned the agenda of the new administration. Sinabi na ni President Marcos, he wants emphasis on science, technology, math, no? Ano yung plans niya by way of increasing interest in science education?
Well, essentially, we have a very good human resource development program providing scholarships to high school through the Philippine Science High School system, but also providing scholarships to undergraduates, masters, and in the PhD program. What I would want this program to add would be entrepreneurship, as we think that we have to match the scientific skills, technological skills with entrepreneurship, so that the knowledge, skills, innovations that our scholars would gain or would produce would be converted to something that will help our economic development. I think that's what happened in Japan, where they initially trained many scientists and engineers, but it did not really make a big impact. And I think what they did was to mix science, engineering, and entrepreneurship, and that's why they have developed. Now, the interest, though, should be increased, but by making sure that we in government, especially at DOST, would be able to show to our youth the importance of science, technology, engineering, math, agriculture, creative arts, and this will be a very good opportunity for them if they embark on it. In the long term, the global trend is that we are into digitalization, science and engineering, creative arts, and I think this would also help people that right now we can be an overseas Filipino worker but still staying within the country. And I think DOST can really shape up this trend by focusing on the various sciences, engineering, math, agriculture, creative arts, and mixing this with entrepreneurship.
You're talking about incubators, no? You will be needing funding for that. Kasama ba yun sa programs niya to provide access to funding for incubators?
Yes, in reality, one of the priority agenda that I have discussed with our colleagues, with our team, would be job creation through science, technology, and innovation that would lead to countryside development. So we have many programs that would cater to various sectors for the industry, linking this with the higher education institutions, small enterprise technology upgrading program for micro, small, and medium enterprises, technology incubation, startups. And so even we have a program on encouraging OFWs that have returned to the country or would plan to return to the country to invest on the things that they're interested in, but we will guide them in the training and also in the technology that can be used. So all of this are to be pursued. We have done this, but we wanted to engage more of our countrymen through the regional offices and the provincial offices that have been revitalized with the passage of the Provincial Science and Technology Office Act.
Secretary, kasama na rin po natin si Ed Lingao.
Hi, it's good to be back. Hi, sir. Magandang gabi po. Sir, well, it's good to hear that magkakaroon ng priority doon sa science, technology, and research and development. Pero sir, like it or not, sir, all administrations have paid lip service to R&D and to science and technology. I mean, it's easy to make that announcement. In the end, what would matter is whether they walk the talk. In other words, in this particular case, of course, we're looking at funding. How much resources is government willing to set aside for science and technology, research and development? Of course, for 2022, sarado yung tindahan dahil napasa na yung budget eh. Pero going into 2023, what are we looking at po? Have there been any commitments? Have there been any promises or pledges as far as increasing the resources available to your department?
Well, based on the current discussion, there will be a slight decrease, 2.5% decrease, but the discussion is not finished yet. We're still recommending for some of the programs or projects that we want to be implemented to have funding. Now, the issue, I think, for us in our internal processes is that we really need to firm up and make sure that various agencies under DOST would be working together, complementing and maximizing the budget that we have. So, for example, in terms of food security, we have agencies involved in production, like the Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic and Natural Resources and Development. We have agencies involved in value chain addition, nutrition, farm mechanization. All of this can actually be harnessed. And better, I think my suggestion is actually to have all the departments that are focused on certain topics to have a shared performance indicator and complementation so that we can maximize the budget given to us. I think we have done this in an agency. I've done this in the office of TVOX. We are doing it at DOST. We need to improve on it. And we think through proper strategic planning and coordination, we in government can actually maximize the budget given to us.
Pero sir, you're talking about maximizing the projected budget for your department. I was wondering lang if there have been any commitments. If I heard you right, kasi parang may decrease pa ng 2.5% eh.
Yes,
Tama ko ba?
but that's just the first discussion.
Okay, pero how does that square, sir, with the commitment to have a bigger push for science, technology, and R&D?
Well, if you're an insider of the Department of Science and Technology, you'll be able to find out where we can maximize our effort. We need to make sure that we fund R&D that can really give us some returns on the impact to job creation, to industry productivity improvement, to services. And also tweak our scholarship program by adding training on entrepreneurship. It's not simply purely R&D. We have to convert this to research into development and commercialization, of course, startup, and all of these need to be maximized. We need to be working together from the national level agencies down to the regional and provincial offices. Of course, when we do this, there are many other possible ways of really adding some funding to our effort by discussing this with our development partners. No? But definitely, of course, the priority funding would come from government.
Secretary, President Marcos has laid out a direction to really start looking into nuclear power. What is your assessment and your vision for what the role of DOST will be? And also in terms of our readiness and what needs to be in place for our readiness in terms of safety and also, for that matter, in terms of human resource within the country to be ready for nuclear power?
Yeah, very good topic. In fact, in the Nuclear Energy Program Interagency Committee that was established in the past administration, we have looked into the various steps that need to be undertaken, and these steps are defined by the International Atomic Energy Agency, where a country who would embark on using nuclear energy for power need to be having and undergoing these different steps. Of course, safety is a primary consideration. Second would be the human resources that would be needed. And so in terms of human resources, we have some scholarships that are being given. This would be the road where we would really focus on nuclear energy for power. And this has been started with the coordination of the Philippine Nuclear Research Institute with the university. But we are also providing some support for those who are interested. Definitely, we need human resources in ensuring that if we ever embark on this, the right procedure, the right safety mechanisms, and sustainability of this program will be ensured.
If we do embark on this, and if you look at that work plan defined by the international standards that we have to adhere to, realistically speaking, what's the earliest that we're actually talking about actually having something online in the country?
It might take several years. I mean, it may not happen very soon if we look into big capacity power plants. Now, there are other options of either using small modular reactors that would be easier to handle. But of course, the pros and cons of really availing of this technology should be looked into. Safety, radioactive waste disposal, and of course, the capacity of Filipinos to be able to sustain this.
Sir, I hope you don't mind, just to parse through your language, because I noticed you said if we ever embark on this. Personally, is that still your attitude towards nuclear power? It's still a question of if, not necessarily a question of when, notwithstanding President Marcos. It seems to be a very clear direction that we really want.
Well, if that direction is taken, then of course, being a government agency, we have to ensure that we have to support the evaluation of the feasibility of this and, of course, safety. DOST has many agencies that are independently looking at the different aspects of establishing a nuclear energy program.
Secretary, you mentioned the government support for startups, for incubators. What about the Balik Scientist program? What about the scientists we have lost? Are we going to intensify this program?
Yes. In fact, our Balik Scientist program has really been intensified from an average of around 25 or 30, doubling it up just before the pandemic to around 60. So to address the brain drain, we have the brain gain by enticing our Filipino scientists and engineers working abroad to serve short to long term, maybe less than 6 months, 15 days to 6 months, and more than 6 months to 1 year. And some of our Balik scientists have decided to stay permanently in the Philippines by establishing their own research labs or working in a university. And I think this will be very important. Now, aside from this, we need to also focus on the specialization that would really be very important in the long-term view of the DOST. We have the Pagtanaw 2050, developed by our national scientists and academicians, together with the scientific community, on the trends that we see in the globe that we should be also looking into. One of this would be really developing our marine resources, as this would be more than twice our land, so that we can avail of the vast marine resources for various purposes, like, for example, for food and also for maritime purposes. We are an pelagic country. We need to be developing this and maximizing these resources.
Do we have enough workers, for example, in FIVOLCS or in Pagasa? I remember there was a brain drain in Pagasa, pati yung chief weather forecaster, he immigrated to Australia. What's the situation now?
Hindi na po ganun, no? We have really encouraged the younger generation to embark on meteorology, and many of them have come back. Some of those that have gone abroad also went back and worked again with Pagasa. On the side of many departments, of course, many agencies, we need to have more graduate scientists, those with masters and PhDs. And again, this would be a continuing effort of the government. So far, we have around like 45,000 scholars, undergraduate to PhDs, and this has been increasing in recent years.
Ano yung effort niya? I mean, there's this impression na hindi sexy enough yung yung science.
Yung science, right? Kailangan kasi nating maipakita that science, engineering, and other science-related professions actually would be able to support our economy and, of course, the livelihood of those taking it in. We have to make sure that our industry has enough appetite for research and development so that they would hire scientists and engineers. Hindi pwedeng ma-absorb ng government lahat yan. And one of this is to make sure that we now partner a DOST organization, scientists, and higher education institutions to address the problems that our industry would have and engage them in research. Kumbaga, they have a problem, we'll link them up with a university so that this problem can be solved. And I think we're seeing this fruit. Many companies are now engaging higher education institutes and DOST, and this needs to be continued.
Pero sir, do you think that local businesses and industries appreciate the value of our local scientists and our local researchers? I mean, I suppose that's the main reason why a lot of them have been going abroad is because they're paid much better there compared to how much they could be paid back here. So my question po is that do you think that, that our local businessmen are aware of how important the role is of these scientists?
Yes, it's changing. In fact, many of the companies outside of Manila are engaging many of our higher education institutions. Of course, maybe years ago, maybe that's the statement, maybe close to 100%, but I don't think it's just like that high now. And I think what we can do is model and show, pilot the effort that we can really show to them that indeed science, technology, engineering can help grow their business. That's why when we talk about job creation, we need to do quality jobs, develop quality jobs, and that is through science, technology, and innovation.
Do we leave it at that? I mean, science and technology in itself is, of course, a very clear field that we're trying to encourage more and more young people to go into. But is there any particular sector or any particular area that you would encourage young Filipinos to go into, maybe on the premise that we may have a competitive advantage to develop in those areas? Are there any areas that you would particularly highlight for our young people as they consider what fields they will enter in the next years?
Well, if you look at our Global Innovation Index, we are kind of high in the electronics industry. But I think the way to go is really into digitalization, because almost everyone, developed countries, are going into Industry 4.0 with artificial intelligence, Internet of Things. I think that is where many of our young students can really gain a lot of employment and actually hasten the economic development, because even in government, digital transformation program is a must. It's not simply with the private sector. In fact, several agencies of the Department of Science and Technology are into it. For example, PWOX has developed a platform, a digital database, so that planning can be made easy. In fact, soon we will launch an automated planning tool that can help local government prepare and risk recover for any disaster. This is just an example. So we will also embark within the DOST system a digital transformation program so that we can actually develop effective and efficient systems that will then relate to our stakeholders.
Secretary, you mentioned disaster preparedness, so closer to last week nagrereklamo yung mga tao, sobra daw ang baha rito, and they were complaining that they didn't get enough alert about the rainfall. Kumusta na yan? Saka yung tinatanong ng iba, what happened to Project NOAA?
Okay,
Are you planning to revive that?
let me be very clear. First of all, the flooding in Metro Manila is not the normal flooding. The problem in Metro Manila is that the drainages were not enough to handle the volume of water. The rain was not that strong. But because of the capacity of these drainage systems to handle the flood, then you would see urban flooding. It's mainly on the streets. It's not the river flooding. We don't have a warning system for that simply because if you stop the pumping of certain areas, for sure, low-lying areas will be flooded. Project NOAA was ended because in 2015, that was the last funding that they have as a project. Every project has a start and an end. And UP took that responsibility not to transfer Project NOAA to Pag-asa.
Okay.
Okay. Sir,
But just to make sure, Pag-asa has developed its own system, making sure that data, rain gauge, Doppler radar data, which all come from the UST anyway, are shown in their website.
okay.
So, umaanda rin Doppler radar natin.
Yeah, of course, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Sir, final question na lang po. I mean, more and more we're seeing science really having an impact and us having a real need for science in areas from everything from cybersecurity to even defining our territories. Where do you see the DOST's role is in terms of national security, in terms of things that can actually make us a stronger nation, apart from application of science and entrepreneurship, as you said, and strengthening the economy? But in areas also of national security, where does DOST become also relevant?
Okay. There's now a Philippine Space Agency, which was a spin-off to the programs, the space program that UST has funded. And we have been using remote sensing images. And in fact, the government has spent on this to really monitor our oceans, our seas, by detecting vessels that are in our area. On a smaller scale, we have been working with the Department of National Defense to automate some of their guns in the ships because they used to have it manually controlled, but we now have an automated computer-based targeting of targets. No? So we have been helping them, and also this technology can help other defense instruments, no? So hindi ako naman pwedeng mag-discuss ng detalye doon. But yes, we are into it. But now with the establishment of the Philippine Space Agency, if we look at the boundaries of the country, then they now have the responsibility. But the Department of Science and Technology still supports their operation. And although they're under the Office of the President, the DOST is a vice chair of this council supporting or governing or advising the Philippine Space Agency.
Okay, Secretary Solidum, sir, obviously we have to invite you back to discuss more of these things. Congratulations on your appointment as DOST Secretary. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, sir.
Maraming salamat din po, sir.
And that's it for the Chiefs. We hope what was discussed will keep the conversation going. Ako po si Roby Alampay.
Hi, Mami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Lingao. We are One News, all sides, all the time.